All right, welcome in. It is the Bears Nation podcast. It is Tuesday, October 3rd. I'm 26 now. Kevin Lapka's here. Myself, Jake Hassan. This is Bears Nation podcast, as always brought to you by On Tap Sports. Now, you may be wondering, dear listener and dear viewer, to steal a Nick Costosism, as I usually do, why is this happening on Tuesday? Where were you yesterday? Well, yesterday we had some issues. We had some scheduling conflicts, couldn't get in. And as there's famously a game on Thursday night football tonight, we're going to roll it all into one. This is going to be your Sunday recap, Thursday preview episode on a Tuesday to give you everything you need and one neat little package, because that's what we do. When we have to adjust things, we adjust it so that it works out best for you, our listeners, our viewers, because we care about you. And don't let anyone ever tell you differently. And if they do say differently, they're lying. But I digress. This is Bears Nation podcast. This is Jake Hassan and Kevin Lapka with you for the next however long this takes, because this team is really stupid and everything's really stupid. And there's a game on Thursday that's really stupid because for some reason the NFL said, yeah, last year's Commanders Bears Thursday night football game was really, really good. Let's run that back. So here we are. And anyway, we're going to start with what happened on Sunday, though, and the whole debacle that was the Bears' loss to the Denver Broncos after they piss away a 3-score lead, a 21-point lead in the second half. They piss away a Justin Fields, a career day from him, his first 300-yard day as an NFL passer, his first 4-touchdown day passing as an NFL quarterback, a day that was really encouraging up until about midway through the third quarter when things just completely turned. You remain winless. Your coach is an idiot. And Kevin, I think that's where I want to start, is with the coaching, because I mean, we said it last week in our preview of this game. It was supposed to be a preview episode, as we do on Wednesdays, and we completely got off on a tangent and started talking about how this coaching staff is incompetent, how they're a bunch of buffoons, how they must take the same clown car to Hallis Hall all together every day, because, oh my God, is this coaching staff some of the biggest idiots in a group that I think I've ever seen in my life. I mean, you have a 3-score lead and you just completely change your play calling. You completely change how you're approaching the game. You burn a timeout to call a shotgun draw play up the middle with Khalil Herbert on a 4th and 1 that you really needed to win the game instead of kicking the field goal. And just a ton of mistakes, especially at the end of the game. I mean, I think for me, Kevin, the biggest gaffe, the most egregious thing out of all of that for me was letting the play call, trying to get the hard count on the 4th and 1. I get it. Every team goes for it. It almost never works, but whatever. I get it. You let the play clock go all the way down. You burn the timeout. You get in the huddle. You come back on the field. If I thought he was going to kick, first of all, once the timeout was called, I was like, okay, they're just going to kick. The hard count didn't work. Offense goes back out there like, oh, okay, maybe this is a little different. Maybe they're getting aggressive again to try and win the game. And then you call a halfback draw with Khalil Herbert that never had a chance. I mean, I forget who was that right guard, just completely blows the assignment. Denver's defensive line gets in the backfield almost immediately. Khalil Herbert, to his credit, lays the hit stick, tries to truck over a guy, but then there's just 3 more defenders there immediately, and you go nowhere, and you lose the game, essentially, on that. And then Justin Fields does have a chance to go win it at the end. He throws a bad interception. But, I mean, the coaching is where I want to start, because that whole sequence was laughably bad. That's the play you come up with out of a timeout to try and win the game, essentially. Like, that's what you had. That was the best. You have Justin Fields there, who's having a career day and is cowardly and is incompetent as the play calling was in the second half, that went away from everything that was working in the first half. I mean, that's the best you could come up with. Seriously, it was just really, really bad. I tweeted this. I think it shows the Bears are trying to lose games again. And, you know, I mean, I just don't have any other. What is the only other option other than they're intentionally losing games again? And throughout the game, you know, when you're scoring touchdowns, they're cutting to Ryan Poles. He's cheering in the box. The fans in the rows in front of him are turning around, being like, yeah, here we go. We're on it. And then after that, After that play, they cut back to Ryan Poles in the box, and he's just got hands in his pockets, staring ahead, 1,000-yard stare. And I don't even know who that was sitting next to him.
I couldn't tell either.
The older, a Caucasian gentleman next to him, head in the hands. Just this is what we saw. Like, yeah, dude, that and maybe that's how that guy felt. Maybe I'm wrong and they're not trying to intentionally lose games, but man, that play call sure seemed like it. And the entire play calling in the second half, you're spacing things out. You're throwing slants. What a concept that is. Holy crap. Got Justin Fields on the move. You're calling the bootlegs. You're having him roll out of the pocket. It's working. And DJ Moore's involved, and Cole Kmet's doing the home run celebration. And then in the second half, you completely stop doing that. You're trying to run. I get it. Maybe ice the clock, milk the clock, try and get to the end of the game. But why go away from what was working? Run up the score. Try to score as much as possible. You got embarrassed last week. So why not try and make a statement? And instead, you become cowardly. You become scared. And you completely go away from what you were doing. And then you lose the game. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me other than they're trying to lose games. And even still, like, and I'll give it to you, Kevin, in a second, but like, Matt Eberflus is like completely nonplussed on the sideline. He's touching his face. He's touching his hair, like doesn't know what to do with his hands. That would imply that they weren't trying to lose games, but oh my God. Like, I don't know how you get to any other conclusion.
You don't. It starts with coaching and it ends with coaching. And clearly they didn't watch the game last week where the Miami Dolphins did exactly what you did in the first half, except they kept doing those things and put on 70. And the Bears wouldn't have put up 70, but they certainly could have put up 40, a milestone that would appear very good for this offense and for this team. It would make you feel very good about yourself on a short week against the Commanders. And now you have the exact opposite where you have hit rock bottom and, you have to play a game in 4 days against a front four that's pretty good. Their secondary is not great. The Eagles have torched them. The Bills have torched them, but those are, star-studded offenses with great offensive
Super Bowl
lines.
caliber offenses.
Exactly.
With
so
good
who
coaching.
knows what's going to happen? Look, man, I tweeted, I said, I thought the first half was Luke Getsy's best play game as a play caller as a Chicago Bear, without a doubt. I mean, the things that they were doing, right? Like getting Justin on the move, just there was guys open. They were scheming things down the field. And granted, it's a Broncos defense, but hey, we've seen this team do nothing against bad defenses before. So it was just encouraging to see, them be able to move the ball. And what you started to see was complementary football. You started to see the offense play with a little bit of fire, and then on the next drive, on a defense that's completely depleted, without Eddie Jackson, without Jalen Johnson, without Kyler Gordon, start to play aggressive. Like you see guys like Greg Sherman out there making plays, and you start to see back-to-back 3-and-outs, and then it compounds, right? And this is what good teams do. Good offense leads to good defense, and then good offense leads to good offense because your quarterback is finally confident. After that first drive, I said, this is what we needed. You are going to see a more confident Justin Fields. And there's one play that came to mind that signaled that. It's the play where he takes the snap, and I don't know whose fault this was, but I think it was Larry Borum. Guy just runs right by him, right in Justin Fields' face. He throws an absolute laser dart kind of on a sidearm to DJ Moore on a slant route with a guy right in his face. And it was at that play I said, Justin Fields is back, right? Like that's a play he doesn't make the first 3 weeks of the season. And that's undisputable. Like that's a play he probably just cradles and turtles and takes a sack. He stood there. The guy came right at him. And the coverage on DJ Moore was great. It wasn't like he was wide open. He had to put that ball in a perfect hole, fit it into a window. He fit it in there. First down Bears at that moment. And I was like, wow, like this is a different player. And for the entire game, Justin Fields looked like a different player, and he looked like a player that I believe could still be the starting quarterback of this team next year. That is a takeaway that I can come to that is well within the realm of possibility, and I know we'll talk about the number one overall pick, and I know we'll talk about the possibility of Caleb Williams, and it has to be discussed, but I don't know how you walk away from that game not thinking, hey, I know we've said this before in different situations, but we know Justin Fields is a more capable quarterback than Mitch Trubisky. If you fire this coaching staff and you actually put a Shane Waldron or a Ben Johnson or somebody on this team with Justin Fields, there is no reason why he can't be successful enough to take this team where they want to go. And that, to me, was the primary takeaway from Sunday. It wasn't a flash in the pan. It wasn't, the once a year Mike White, Ryan Fitzpatrick amazing game that bad players have, right? Because that happens every year. Justin Fields is capable of this on a weekly basis. He finally showed it, and that made me really, really happy about, the potential future for him still as a Chicago Bear, although we, almost ruled that out.
So this is where we're going to argue, and this is where we're going to fight, as we do. I'm not there yet. I still think that if the season ended today and you still had the number 1 pick, you're picking Caleb Williams. But I will say that I am open to being proven wrong if this continues. I tweeted this and you got mad at me on Twitter. The Broncos are terrible. Like I'm not fully convinced that was Justin Fields is good and not the Broncos are just not somehow as even worse than we thought they were.
You didn't give Tua the benefit of the doubt last week. Everyone's, Tua's amazing. No one was talking about Tua like the Denver Broncos had a bad defense. You got to give him some
because
credit.
we know Tua's good. Right. Though. We know Tua's good.
Yeah, but
like
he deserves some credit. He deserves some credit.
I agree. There were some throw. I mean, you highlighted the throw to DJ Moore, the sidearm. That was a throw that not a lot of quarterbacks make. I agree with that completely. And that's what I mean, where I'm saying I'm open to the idea that Justin Fields can be successful and can be the Bears QB1 next year. I mean, his 4th touchdown of the game where he's dancing in the pocket, he's directing traffic. Incredible. That I was sitting at a bar where our mutual friend Sam works, and I turned to the guy next to me and I go, that's vintage Justin Fields. Like that's the Justin Fields we were promised. Like that's the Justin Fields we were promised and that we were sold. That was the Ohio State Justin Fields. That was the weeks, 4 to 8 or 4 to 10 Justin Fields that we saw last year. That was the guy that we thought we were getting this year for the entire year. If he can continue to do this, then I'm open to that idea of him being around next year. And then maybe you do draft, Verse, the edge rusher. And maybe you do draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and you continue to just supplement this team. I'm open to the idea. But like, if this regresses right away, like this is going to be a test, and we'll get into it when we start to talk about the Commanders game in a couple minutes here. But this is a test because the Broncos are terrible. Let's not get things mixed up here. Yes, they beat you, and yes, you are also terrible. But the Broncos defense is truly atrocious. They are so bad, and they still were able to put pressure on Justin Fields, and they were still able to make him uncomfortable at various points during that game. The Commanders have a very, very good front 7. And even if you want to just say front 4, it's excellent. So if Justin Fields, and even I would even say the Commanders secondary is at least closer to average than the Broncos is. So you have a test this week. If you can put, I'm not going to say
Patrick Surtain is better than any player on the Commanders.
Sure. But I mean, Vance Joseph is making Patrick Surtain look like me out there. It's so bad what that guy is doing to the Denver Broncos defense. So it's a test this week. I'm not saying he has to put up 304 touchdowns again, but if you can have a good, clean game where, and I mean, that interception at the end was like, let's not mix words. Like that interception was bad. It was bad.
It wasn't. It wasn't bad.
It was kind of bad.
Him and Cole Kmet were not on the same page. Cole Kmet turned the wrong way. The ball was right where it needed to be, I think. They were just not on the same page. And you see that sometimes.
But like we do that. We say that all the time though. Like eventually, like that's what I mean though. And I feel like we said this a lot last year. Eventually those things have to go away. Like eventually
go away for Kelsey and Mahomes. Those things happen for guys in big situations like that too.
Consistently with the Bears and with Justin Fields. Like those things have to go away. Yes, I understand that they'll happen every now and then, but I feel like we do this every week. At some point, those things have to go away. So back to my original point being that this is a test now. You have a much better defensive front that you're facing. You have on a short week, this is a test. If you can have a good game and eliminate those mistakes, then I will be even more convinced. Now, again, same thing. Two games back to back isn't going to convince me. Like then you have a long week to prepare for Minnesota. And then if you do it again, then like keep showing me this. Like it's the Broncos. They're awful. So that's all I'm saying. Like I'm open to the idea. I'm willing to believe in Justin Fields again, but I'm not going to jump off into the water after one good game, not even good game, one excellent game against what may be one of the worst defenses in league history right now. That's all I'm saying.
I get that from your point of view because you've been down on Justin Fields, right? For me, obviously, you know how far in I've been on Justin Fields, and that was just sort of a prove it game for me, right? That was a game where I felt validated about my opinions and my takes on Justin Fields and everything, and really just again about the future. Like, and G Station makes a really good point here as we talk about what happens in these next 13 games as it determines the future of this franchise, especially at the quarterback position. He says you take another QB in Caleb Williams that holds on to the ball for a long time with an O-line and wide receivers who's shorter and slower than Fields. He's not wrong to an extent. Caleb Williams is generational arm talent, right? And a lot of the plays you watch in his highlight tape are him rolling out, him making plays with his arm rolling out. You don't see a lot of things inside the pocket of him getting the ball out quick. I see a lot of the same things from Caleb Williams on his college tape that I saw on Justin Fields' college tape. I almost do think, Jake, that it's better for this franchise. It's better for this franchise if they were to take Verse and Fashanu. Like, could you imagine getting the top edge rusher, like a generational edge rusher and a generational offensive lineman in the top 5 and bring in Ben Johnson? Oh, and you still have the most cap space in the league. Like, that would be a situation that I would feel more comfortable in than taking Kelly Williams and Marvin Harrison when you already have DJ Moore. I would prefer to have that. If you were to say take the red pill or the blue pill, and the red pill is keep Justin Fields, fire the coaching staff, hire a new offensive, minded head coach, draft Jared Verse and Olu Fashanu or whatever edge rusher and wherever interior D lineman or whatever offensive interior alignment if people, rise up in the draft, between now and April,
sure.
Or keep the coaching staff by, make Justin Fields a scapegoat, keep the coaching staff, or even if you fire the coaching staff and then draft Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't know. I don't think, like, I would still not hate the blue pill. I would still obviously be intrigued by what Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison can do and all these things. But we've known for so long now, at least with Justin Fields here, that it's going to take more in the trenches. We know it on the defensive side of the ball. We've seen it on the offensive side of the ball. And if you could shore up the trenches while you do have playmakers at the skill positions and you have playmakers, at the back end of your defense, that to me is just the more ideal situation. And I know we're getting into real far away stuff here with the draft, but this is relevant because you're going to start to see, like we talked about the possibility of this nightmare scenario where Justin Fields is made the scapegoat and Eberflus and Getsy stay around. But after last week, that's already shifted. Like, and I know already people have already been on this side of the coin.
Which I said to you in our preview last week.
Yeah, I mean, well, just that. No, I just now that you can't make Fields the scapegoat.
Right.
He is the second player in NFL history to have an 80% completion percentage, 300 plus passing yards, and 4 touchdowns, and lose the game. And it's not his fault. He can't be the scapegoat anymore. They're gonna fire the head coach and Luke Getsy, or they might not fire Luke Getsy.
I mean,
they might not fire Getsy. They're gonna fire Matt Eberflus after Thursday. He is going to get fired,
which we talked about.
Can we just segue into the Chase Claypool situation right now? Can we do this right now?
Well, I want to go to one thing that you brought up about comparing Caleb Williams to Justin Fields. All those things might be true as far as like, okay, they have similar tape. Because obviously it's not exact 1-to-1. Like you said, Caleb Williams is like a transcendent generational type athlete quarterback right now. But even so, the way the NFL, because what goes into this, you have to consider the way the NFL works. Even if those things are true and the coaching staff gets fired, Ryan Poles is going to choose to reset the clock with a rookie contract.
Like, I don't know if he would, though.
Because that's just how the NFL works, though. Like those rookie contracts, especially for quarterbacks, like even if you believe that, like you reset that clock for 5 years with a new, like that's how the NFL works. Like they're gonna choose the younger guy on the cheaper deal.
I don't know though, because
100 times,
there's a couple of situations like this is not working out well for the Giants, but there's situations where you don't reset the clock. Like Daniel Jones probably shouldn't have been the guy, and they pay him. And
what were the Giants' options though?
I know. Well, I know because they didn't have a pick and whatever, and they weren't going to get another veteran. But the thing is, like, people need to understand, more and more and more, right? Look at Bryce Young last year. A quarterback, even at number 1 overall, isn't a sure thing. It's never been a sure thing. It's a 50% hit rate that number 1 overall general.
Well, it's because the Panthers beefed it.
But I'm not even just talking about Bryce Young. I'm talking about guys
he might be good. We're 4 weeks into the season.
Right. I'm just saying that the risk that you take on Caleb Williams and the rookie contract for a number one overall pick isn't even that. Like, that's a number one overall pick is lucrative. Yes, it's still a rookie contract, but it's still lucrative. It's not, $200 million, but it's still enough. And the Bears have gotten themselves in a situation where they don't have to extend Justin Fields this offseason. They don't have to, right? They're not in position to do it because he can't walk to them and say, hey, I deserve an extension.
Mm-hmm.
He just can't do it. They're going to have to, have him play one more year and then do it. But I just, people make it out to be as such a sure thing. And it's never wrong to take the chance on it when it's a guy like Caleb Williams. But it's not a lock. It's not a lock. And I know you're right about resetting the clock, but at the same time, the Bears have a ton of money to pour in this year, and they already have money allocated for the next 3 years. And if you're kind of signaling rebuild-ish or retool with a tank and with a Caleb Williams, like it doesn't align with the money that you've spent and the money that you have. So I don't know. It's a complicated situation. We're not really going to figure it out. And again, I've said it last week, and the Bears now, because of the Panthers' ineptitude, have risen to a 57% chance to get the number one overall pick.
Huge.
But there's still a chance they don't get the number one overall pick. And if they don't get the number one overall pick, there is a 0% chance the Bears move on from Justin Fields. That's my school of thought. There's no one else in this draft class you're taking. You're not taking Drake May. He's not better than Justin Fields. You're not taking Bo Nix. You're not taking Shedeur Sanders if he even comes out, right? You're not doing those things. The only scenario where this
Michael
is a conversation,
really good.
Michael Penix might be good, but
he might be really
again,
good.
Michael Penix is exactly Justin Fields from college, the exact same player.
Well, then we go in circles. We have the same conversation though.
Yeah. So nonetheless, I'm under the school of thought that you do not take a quarterback unless you have the number one overall pick. And even then, it's a question for me. But if you don't have the number one overall pick, it's not a question. You're taking Verse, you're taking Fashanu, you're taking Marvin Harrison Jr., whatever it may be, and you move on. So we have to let the season play out. There's a chance, the Bears get healthy again. They fire Matt Eberflus and they win games. There is a strong chance of that.
Sure.
There is a strong chance they cut Chase Claypool. They get Matt Eberflus out of here. They start to win a couple games, and the number one overall pick is no longer in question. Like we could totally get to that point. So it's a little premature to even talk about it. I just mentioned him. Let's break it down. Can I rant for 2 seconds before I throw it over to you about Chase Claypool?
Go for it. Yeah, actually, I would prefer you do, because this was your guy who you were back in on. You famously, after the touchdown catch, you were like, "Yeah, I'm back in on Chase Claypool."
And this is sort of a
verbatim. You said that.
This is sort of a defensive Chase Claypool here.
Oh boy!
Hear me out. It is, part of my French, Mom, fucking little league what the Chicago Bears are doing right now. It's little league. Chase Claypool, whatever you say about him, right? TikTok boy, doesn't show a lot of effort on the field. This is a guy who comes into the building every day with the rest of his teammates. No one knows what he does inside of that building. No one knows if he comes to meetings on time, all that. But he comes in. His teammates don't seem to hate him. Justin Fields talked about missing him on the field on Sunday. And you're not going to let the guy in the fucking building? You're not going to let him be out there with his teammates on Sunday? The same teammates he puts his blood, sweat, and tears on the line with on a daily basis? You're not going to let him be on the field with his teammates, with the guys that want him there. I don't care if you, the coach, don't want him there. His teammates want him there, and that matters more. And you're not going to give him the opportunity to be in the building? You're going to send him home. You're unclear about whether you send him home or the team send him home. It is fucking little league. You can make him a healthy scratch. If you are upset with the way he has performed in practice and the way he's performed in the first 3 games from an effort standpoint, that's fine. Make him a healthy scratch. But you cannot send that player home. That sends a terrible message to this team. It sends a terrible message to the organization, and it's absolute bullshit what they're doing with Chase Claypool. And I don't care. Again, I don't care your thoughts on him. I don't care if you think he's a bad energy guy or a bad player. Clearly, the guys in that locker room don't feel that way. Justin Fields had his back this entire time, and for you to send him home is just fucking little league. This doesn't happen. Name another situation where a guy just gets sent home for reasons like this. Like, you'll see guys get sent home because maybe, they committed a crime or something, or, they're under some legal trouble where they can't be in the building. Chase Claypool isn't any of that. And you're just sending him home, and you're telling him he can't come back to be in the building with his teammates? It's fucking little league. And Matt Eberflus's handling of the situation has been comical, right? When he initially after the game said it was Claypool's choice to send to be home, and then the team spokesperson has to say no, the team sent him home, and then on Monday yesterday he has no answers to the question. I'm sorry.
For 6 minutes.
For 6 minutes. I mean, they grilled the guy.
They grilled him, and you got Zippo answers.
And look, if you would have said, and he could have easily got himself out of it. And let me be clear here. Chase Claypool should be traded. Chase Claypool should be cut from the team. I just think they're better without him, right? For whatever reason, like Economy St. Brown is better for this team. And maybe just like whatever is going on with him is just too much for this team to handle. And they should trade him. Like, don't get me wrong. That's where I'm coming from. I do not want him to be on this team anymore, but it's fucking Little League that you're telling this guy to stay home. It's embarrassing. That's not how you run a football team. It's wannabe tough guy and say, oh, wannabe disciplinary. Yeah. It's comical and it's sad. And it's embarrassing. Sorry.
So I thought that rant, when you said this is a defense of Chase Claypool, I thought I was going to be way more upset by the end of that. I actually do agree with most, if not all, of what you said. I think Matt Eberflus is a coward. I think he's spineless. I think he has no idea what he's doing. I think the job is way too big for him. I think he is not ready or maybe ever to be a head coach. He clearly is way over his skis here. 100%. Doesn't know how to deal with the media, doesn't know how to handle the team. It's just way too much for him. Clearly, like it's just clearly over his head completely. I will say, and I agree, it's Bush League, it's Little League, it's real, like incredibly dumb that the team sent Chase Claypool home. All that being said, Chase Claypool is not doing himself any favors so far this season. There was the weird things in training camp with him, like starting arguments, and then in the preseason going to pick fights with opposing sidelines. And for as talented as he is, I do agree with you that just the headache is not, like, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Correct. Here. Like, and he's not doing himself any favors by, okay, yeah, the media is going to seek you out sometimes, especially when you're not playing well, but to just go like, no, the coaches aren't putting me in a position to succeed. We know, man, we got eyeballs. We know that the coaching staff is a bunch of buffoons and they're not helping you or anybody else on this team. But like, you're not doing yourself any favors when you're saying that and when you're pouting on the sideline, and especially with his play not backing it up in the previous weeks with the lack of blocking. He's in the wrong a little bit here, not nearly as much as Matt Eberflus and the coaching staff, but Chase Claypool is not doing himself any favors here because, and that's highlighted, I think, by the fact that when Matt Eberflus said, oh, he chose to stay home, we all believed it. We all were like, oh yeah, that checks out. Like, that's something he would do. That's something Chase Claypool would do. Like, it made sense. It checked out. We all believed it so immediately. So, and now we're in like, okay, the team spokesperson clarifies like, all right, no, Eberflus is the idiot here. But Chase Claypool doesn't help himself, and we all believed it when Eberflus originally said, oh, he chose to stay home. So this is just a bad relationship. It's a toxic one. Both parties need to just go their separate ways. Ryan Poles made a huge miscalculation when he traded the pick for Chase Claypool, which ended up being the 32nd overall pick. Brutal miscalculation by Ryan Poles. Brutal miscalculation. Like, maybe he had more faith in the coaching staff. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, yeah, just what a clown organization, what a dumb organization that just, and I mean, we're going to learn a lot because I said this last week, there was a Zippo% chance, no matter how the game went on Sunday, that they were going to fire Eberflus or anyone on a short week. But now I think we're going to get some answers. If the Bears get embarrassed again against the Commanders on Thursday night, I think we're seeing Kevin Warren on Monday, if not on Friday. I think we are, because I think it was Kevin Fishbane who wrote on The Athletic that he was there. He was in the locker room after that game. He had the game notes and the game book in his hand. He got in a cart and he went off to, I assume, his office to reevaluate. I think we see him on Friday if the Bears get embarrassed on Thursday, which they probably will, because and this could be our segue into this. A couple of reasons. We already talked about how the Commanders have a very stout front four, and they're going to be in Justin Fields' face all day. And you're still banged up injury-wise, and you're still not looking great as far as team health goes. But also, say what you will about Sam Howell, he played really well against Philadelphia. And the knock on Sam Howell was that, and you put him under any pressure, he crumbles. The Philadelphia defense is still pretty good, and they were giving him some pressure, and he played really well. And when you don't give Sam Howell pressure, he is very, very good. He can spin the damn football when he's not under pressure. When he can sit in the pocket and throw the ball, he's really good. And he almost damn near won that game for Washington in Philadelphia if Riverboat Ron wasn't dead and buried in the ground. I don't know who is on that sideline now, but Riverboat Ron's dead, and he's been dead for years. Riverboat Ron goes for 2 to win the game. And I think Sam Howell would have done it. I think he would have won that damn game for them. But I digress. The Bears are incapable of getting a pass rush. They're incapable of putting opposing quarterbacks under pressure. We've seen that for over a year now. So what do you think's going to happen? Especially when you consider the coverage that was happening against the Broncos and a cooked Russell Wilson and guys like Marvin Mims. What do you think is going to happen with Sam Howell and Jahan Dotson, or Sam Howell and Terry McLaurin? They're going to run all over you. And they're just going to dice you up. I think you're in for a bad brew here, to use another Nick Costosism. I think it's going to be brutal for you. I think you're going to lose. Maybe it's a close, high-scoring game again, but I think it's a bad situation. I think the Bears lose. I mean, not to get ahead of ourselves, but I think they're going to lose, and I think everyone's getting fired.
Yeah, it's funny because I want the Bears to win, obviously, just because I haven't seen a win. And I don't know what does a win feel like, Jake? I don't know.
Remember.
And I just want to see it. But with that being said, part of me would be upset if we won because I would know the coaching staff wouldn't get fired. And that's so sad.
Correct.
It's so sad that we're at that point, but we just are. And that's where it would have been real nice to beat the Broncos, because you could have beat the Broncos and then got embarrassed on Thursday night and the coaching staff still get fired, but then you're 1-5 and it doesn't look so bad and you had a win on your under your belt instead of continuing the streak and essentially gonna end up going 0-17. Here's what I have to say real quick about real quick before we get into the breakdown of this game specifically. There's a bit of a case study that we can take from 2022 about the precedent for firing a head coach this early. It's the Carolina Panthers in 2022. This team was 1-5, or they were 1-3. I believe. They played the San Francisco 49ers in week 5. They lost 37-15. They became 1-4, and they fired Matt Rule at that point. And things were a dumpster fire. Things looked really bad. And you're in the same situation if you're the Bears. You're in the same exact situation. You're 0-4. You're 0-4. You're going into week 5, and then you would fire the head coach after week 5. So there's precedent for people who say this is way too early to fire a head coach. You have to let it play out. You don't. You just don't have to let it play out. We've seen this precedent before. And when you look at the Carolina Panthers from last year, they go 1-4 in their first 5 games, and then they end up 7-10. So they go 6-6 in their next 12, which is just another case study of you can really have a team come together. And I'm not saying the Bears make the playoffs or anything. I'm just saying you can see more positive things from a team if you just get rid of a guy that guys will not buy into. And it's clear that the team is not buying into Matt Eberflus. It's clear that I think they'd be a better team without him. And I think you're right. I think this is the end of their tenure after this game. So we'll both lock in that predict. Well,
that could be our bold prediction for the week.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get into our bold predictions and I'll make up my mind on that. But yeah, as far as this game goes, though, Jake, when you talk about breaking this down, Sam Howell looked good last week. He looked terrible the week before. And he looked great the week before that and looked terrible the week before that. The tale of his career thus far is just inconsistency. And the question becomes, although this is a bad Bears defense, can he do it twice in a row on a short week with 4 days and less preparation? I don't think Sam Howell's going to torch you. Sam Howell's not going to throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns on you. Though I don't think that's going to happen, and I'm not sure the Commanders are going to play that type of game. Eric Bieniemy is there, though. Eric Bieniemy is torched this Bears defense before. He knows how to handle most NFL defenses. He's probably going to do some creative things. He's probably going to get him in the end zone. I just don't know if Sam Howell is going to have a phenomenal game and show that he can be a consistent passer in the league. Although the Bears have been a get right team for pretty much every team that has come through them to this point. So I just, you got to look at the injury report as well. The Bears did sign Deron Harmon off the Ravens practice squad. They get some safety help, which is probably an indication that Eddie Jackson's going to be out. Jalen Johnson with a hamstring on a short week is not probably looking good. He's probably not going to play. So you're probably going to have the same exact defense that you had out there last week against the Broncos. And you saw a little bit, from the guys filling in. but there was still too many plays where it was like a hot knife through butter, man. And it starts with the front four.
I mean, the throw from Wilson to Mims to get into field goal range, even at the end,
Wide
nobody
open.
even close, not even in the same zip code. Like, brutal. Continue. Sorry.
No, you're right. I was gonna let you go. I mean, it's inexcusable. And I know Johnson and Eddie Jackson are still listed as questionable, but you're probably going to see Elijah Hicks out there. You're probably going to see Terrell Smith, who I thought played a pretty good game
Sure.
last Sunday. But
All things
it's
considered.
yes, you have really good playmakers on the outside for Washington in Jahan Dotson and in Terry McLaurin, who are just phenomenal and are going to expose you. And Eric Bieniemy, it's not even about the playmakers. Like, Eric Bieniemy is going to find a way to get those guys open. He's just that good of an offensive play caller, and he's been doing it against good defenses. I know they really struggled against Buffalo, but those points that they put up against the Eagles and just staying in that game and coming from behind and getting the ball down the field, like, he is an example of making a quarterback probably look better than he is, in my opinion. And Eric Bieniemy is doing that for years, even in Kansas City. So I'm a little nervous about that. But I think this is like the flip side of that coin. I'm not all in on the Commanders' defense yet. Like, I know their front four is really good, but if the Bears deploy a similar game plan to last week, where you're not relying on Justin Fields to sit in the pocket and you get him on the rollout, you get him on the move, you do some bootlegs, as long as there's not a guy in his face when you do the bootleg, then you can move the ball on this Washington Commanders defense. I'm not too worried about that. So I think you're getting in a situation where Al Michaels will not be in misery in the fourth quarter, and this will actually be a relatively exciting, high-scoring game.
I don't even know if it mattered, just not to sidetrack too much, but like, I don't even know if it matters with Al anymore. Like, last week's game wasn't terrible. Like with Lions Packers, that was a decent game. And just the whole time, he's just like
he didn't have the juice.
I don't think it matters with Al anymore. I think he just is mailing it in regardless.
He's cooked. I mean, people always refer to the game-winning field goal. He called the wild card game between the Chargers and the Jaguars, that unbelievable comeback by the Jaguars, and he calls the final field goal, and he's like, and it's in.
Yeah,
like Pat Summerall in the old days with John Madden. Like just that monotone voice,
the deadpan,
like
the
deadpan. Like, come on.
I just don't think he cares anymore. I think he's just like whatever. I mean, it doesn't help that he's with Herb Street, who like is Like, I just don't think that like that booth is just they gotta change.
Herb Street's a great analyst, but the chemistry there is not great.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if those guys like each other at all. Anyway, I digress. That was a quick little tangent.
No, I mean, you're right. But I think in general, hey, if there was one thing I was right about last week, I predicted a high-scoring game, and I predicted an actually exciting game, and that's what it was. And I think you're going to kind of see something similar this week if the Bears, if that was sort of, we talk about, hey, Luke Getsy's a really flawed offensive coordinator. He might be really bad, but he had the ability last year and showed the ability to make adjustments, although it took a while. It took until that Patriots game. Maybe it was this time. It took until this Broncos game. And then you saw a good stretch. Like, they didn't go backwards after that Patriots game last year. And I think what you're hoping now is don't go backwards. Like, you went backwards in the second half, but in general, like, do the same things you did in the first half, at least now in the first half against the Commanders. Like, keep that rolling. Don't revert to what you did the first 3 weeks of the season when it was absolutely abysmal. Hopefully things have clicked a little bit. And if they do click, Jake, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if they do click again, if the Bears do score 28 plus points again, even if they somehow find a way to lose and they mail it in the second half, I think you're going to see a situation where Eberflus gets fired, but Getsy doesn't. I think you could enter that territory a little bit, which, like, at least for the rest of the year, solely because if you fire both of those guys, you get into a really tough situation just with deploying guys to be coordinators and be the head coach, right? I think from that standpoint, I think he would still get fired at the end of the year. But if you're talking about fired week 5, I think you're getting into that territory. So that's where I'm at with that. But I still think this is going to be an exciting game. I think the Bears are going to continue a little bit of offensive success. I'm going to pull up the stats here for the Commanders defense and show you what they really have. And it's always hard to judge things in the first 4 weeks of the season, on a yards per game basis and all that stuff. But I still think this is a defense that's vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going through the Bears coaching staff right now because I just can't believe they would go to somebody who has never head coached before to be the interim And I'm trying to find if
teams
anybody
have done that before, right? I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, like
just
you used the example of Carolina earlier. Like Steve Wilkes had
Wilkes.
coached before. Like he was a head coach previously. I'm trying to like find anyone whose name I recognize that might have like was. I mean, I guess maybe you. I mean, like Richard Hightower's been with the organization since 2016,
I think
and he's been an NFL coach for 16 years. Like maybe that is what you do.
I am looking at some situations too where teams have hired a coach from externally of the organization mid-season. And the most recent case we have of this is Jeff Saturday last year, right? And everyone crucified him, and he ended up not coaching that well, but he did win his first game.
And guess what? He's back in the ESPN studios.
Yeah, he's back in the ESPN studios, right? But the Bears could go that route, like if that's the case. But yeah, if you look at the guys on the staff, like that's why I say, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they just promoted Luke Getsy or something to offensive or to head coach or something, and then with, although Getsy's a coward, but not a coward, but it would be probably Richard Hightower. Getsy stays the offensive coordinator. They finally, promote Andre Curtis or Dave Borgonzi, the defensive coordinator.
Well, Janocko probably quarterbacks coach.
Yeah, Janocko potentially, if Luke Getsy were to be the head coach. I don't know. I mean, who knows? But I just don't think
this will be my bold prediction. Not to jump too far.
Let's just get into the bold predictions.
All right, this is gonna be my bold prediction. The Bears lose this game. Eberflus and Getsy both get fired, or at least Eberflus gets fired. I think Hightower becomes your new head coach. He has the most experience on the staff, and he's already a coordinator. I think that makes the most sense. 16 years of NFL coaching experience is a lot, including we've talked before the Bears. He was with the 49ers, and we've talked about like taking people from like he was the Niners special teams coordinator.
What years?
From as recently as 2021, because last year was his first year in Chicago. So he was with the 49ers from 16 years NFL coaching experience. Texans 06-08, Commanders 10-13, Browns 14, Niners 15, and then an off year in 2016, I don't know, whatever, but then 17-21 with the 49ers.
Okay, so a couple Super Bowl years.
Oh, he was with the Bears in 2016. So he was with the Bears in 2016, then went back to the 49ers for 2017-21. So, and now has been with the Bears since last year and then this year. Like that makes the most sense. A guy who's been in the NFL 16 years in places like San Francisco and their success, like for those 49ers playoff runs in 21 and 20, like that's your guy. Yeah. All right, that's my bold prediction. Bold prediction. Unfortunately, Bears lose. Eberflus gets fired. Richard Hightower is your new head coach.
Yeah, I think I might agree with that. I think I might agree with that. Real quick, can I read you some stats from the defense?
Please do.
Of Washington. Again, extrapolated. I don't even know if that's the word I'm looking for. I don't think it is.
Over a 17-game season, yeah, that's what you're looking. You're right. You're on.
No, not. I mean, sort of. Opponent points per game, 30 points per game, 29th in the NFL. Opponent points per play, 0.476, 29th in the NFL. Opponent yards per game, 352.5, 21st in the NFL. Opponent third down conversion percentage, right around mediocre, 39.62%. Opponent red zone scoring percentage, 41.67%. That's sixth in the NFL. They're good in the red zone, but they're allowing a lot of points on the ground. They're allowing, one rushing touchdown per game, 18th in the NFL, 26th in the NFL in opposing yards per rush. So maybe the Bears can get the rush game going a little bit more with the rush defense, with the rushing offense and with Justin Fields. Pass defense. All right. Opponent pass yards per game. Oh, here we go. 230, 20th in the NFL. Opponent yards per pass, 7, 24th in the NFL. Sack percentage is 6 in the NFL, 9%. They still can get after the quarterback. They're probably going to sack Justin Fields a whole lot, but they're vulnerable to big plays down the field. Opponent completion percentage, 64%, 12th in the NFL. This is a defense that's vulnerable, Jake. And I told you this. And their takeaways per game, 1.3, 12th in the NFL. They do get after the football, but not at a super high rate. And they give the ball away 26th most or 6th most in the NFL with 2 giveaways per game because Sam Howell threw those 4 interceptions against Buffalo. That's a little bit misconstrued there. So this is we're just making this Washington defense out to be formidable. They're not formidable. Their front 4 is very good, but you can move the ball on this team, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears do score a lot of points. My bold prediction is the Bears win. No, I'm just kidding. Justin Fields has another solid game. He compounds on last week. I think you saw a huge confidence boost for him despite the loss, and I know he was kind of distraught after the game and has, sort of just couldn't believe what had just occurred. But I think he's going to look back at the tape and be like, man, I know I could play this game at a high level, and he's going to do it again against the Commanders. And he's going to throw for 280 plus yards. He's going to throw for 2 touchdowns. He's going to rush for 1. That'll be sort of my bold prediction. I also do think that Chase Claypool will be cut by Thursday. And so he'll either be waived by the end of today or tomorrow.
In the next 48 hours?
I think he'll be waived in the next 48 hours. I don't think they're going to find a trade partner. I think they're just going to waive him before the game, just get rid of the mess before the team travels to Washington. And because of that, I think Equanimeous St. Brown's going to catch a touchdown pass. That's my bold prediction. So,
for the record, last week's bold predictions: 3 receptions for Tyler Scott from Kevin.
Hey, I think he had 1, right? Or I think he actually got an end around.
He had 2 carries, so you were close. Okay. And that Velus Jones Jr. would be inactive, which he famously was not.
But he didn't see the field.
No, yeah, he did. He had a rush. He had a carry for 10 yards.
Oh, he had a rush.
He had a carry for 10 yards, which makes my bold prediction correct that he would be on the field. So we went mano-a-mano there.
Wait, that was your bold prediction?
Mine was a Pat Surtain interception and Velus Jones Jr. action. We were scrambling last
Justin
week.
Fields stat lines, read them.
We were scraping the bottom of the barrel. For last week, what we predicted for Justin Fields stat lines: Kevin, 237 passing yards, way over, obviously. 22 for 26, not that far off. 84 rushing yards, rushing TD, passing TD, interception. So Kevin was closest, as I was 15 for 28, 152 passing yards, 80 rushing yards, interception, and rushing touchdown. Yeah, they still lost, so whatever. You predicted Bears would win 34-31. Not win.
It could have played out that way, Jake. If they kicked the field goal and go to OT, it could have played out that way.
I predicted Broncos win 38-17. So I was right on the Broncos. Kevin was closer on the score. And now your bold predictions for this week are Chase Claypool waived. I guess it's a 2-parter, right? So
yeah, it's a 2-parter. Chase Claypool waived and Equanimeous St. Brown catches a touchdown pass. I honestly just do think at this point Equanimeous St. Brown is better for your offense. Like, he made a bigger play than Chase Claypool has made. He made that great catch, bobbled it right by the sidelines. He made that phenomenal play. But yeah, that's my bold prediction. And then your bold prediction is Matt Eberflus gets fired after the game. And Luke Getsy, you're pairing those two?
I'm not going to pair them for my bold prediction because there is a world in which Justin Fields plays well and the offense plays well again. But I will say my bold prediction is Bears lose, Eberflus fired, Richard Hightower is your new head coach.
Shane McCoy in the chat. This is great. Bold prediction: Bears trade Claypool in a 3rd-round pick for Sam Moose.
Oh God, please no. Something we should have.
Wait,
something we should have bold predicted was a Mercedes Lewis reception. Didn't have that on my bingo card. Anyway, what do you want to address?
So this goes back to what we talked about last week. I know we kind of got unserious, but it's time to get serious again here. All right, when we talk about Bears players coming or players coming to Chicago to be members of the Chicago Bears and becoming the worst versions of themselves, right? Like this, it just happens.
Oh yeah, this is crazy.
It just happens because organization. And there's no better example of it than Sam Mustipher. I mean, this guy has gone to Baltimore and become a top 3 center in the league statistically. I mean, John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson have nothing but good things to say about him. It is just incredible. I mean, this guy was the definition of ineptitude with the Chicago Bears. Didn't know what he was doing on each play. Just couldn't figure it out. He takes one off season to go to arguably the best coach in the NFL and John Harbaugh, or one of the top 3 coaches, right? Historically, maybe not top 3. Just a great coach, though. Just a very good coach who knows his players well, and he just becomes a solid rock on that offensive line. It is just incredible. And he's not the only one. Like, we can just bring it up. We know Klumack, what he's capable of.
Obviously.
6 sacks on Sunday, right? And it's not like he was a worse version of himself on the Bears, but just to put that out there. And then Nicholas Morrow, 3 sacks on Sunday, is one of the leading sack leaders for linebackers.
The highest graded linebacker in all of football right now.
The highest graded linebacker in all of football is Nicholas Morrow. And that was a guy who was fine with the Bears, but just was, we raved about that signing at the time. And this is what I'm going back to, guys. When I talk about, there's going to be people who are going to start to put this on Ryan Poles. Do not put this on Ryan Poles yet. It is too early to do that. We don't know. We don't even know if his signings have been bad. We don't even know if his draft picks have been bad. We have to let a good coach come in here and try to develop these players. And if they aren't developable, if that's even a word, after you bring a good coach in here, then you can start to make your decisions on Ryan Poles. But it's too early for that, because you're seeing all these guys that he brought in, right? Or he didn't bring in Mustapher, but you're starting to see these guys thrive on other teams.
They go regardless. Over the last 2 years, guys have gone elsewhere and gotten better.
Yeah, and it's not an indictment on Ryan Poles. It's an indictment on the coaching staff, and it's super. I mean, it's great for those guys. Like, I'm glad they're finding success at other teams, but it's sad to see. And I think there's a couple other guys that come to my mind for this. If you guys in the chat want to drop them in there, Shane or Skox or G Station.
I mean, like Morrow and Mustapher are the top 2. I know Roquan Smith was already a good player, but he's also graded, I think, right behind Morrow is like the second best linebacker right now. So yeah, I mean, you're right.
Travis Gibson had a strip sack against the Bengals for the Titans.
Very cool. Bengals might also be terrible.
The Bengals might be terrible, and Orlando Brown's a liability, and he was lined up against Orlando Brown on that play. But thank God the Bears didn't throw money at him. Oh my God, I was wrong about that. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, we both were.
Also, Darnell Wright's really fucking good. Just put that out.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be ups and downs. He's a rookie, but yeah.
He's a cornerstone of the franchise player. Let's predict the game.
All right. Should we do quarterback predictions first?
Yes.
You kind of already gave yours. You said 280 plus passing, and then you said 2 touchdowns passing. Would you like to add rushing totals and completions?
I added a rushing touchdown. So 3 touchdowns total. Okay. I'll add 24 completions in this game. He had a record career high 28 last game, and also broke the Bears franchise record.
24 out of
31. Also broke the franchise record for most consecutive completions to start a game with 16. That was a really cool thing to see. And he actually would have been close to the NFL record if he hadn't thrown the Hail Mary, because he was 24 for 25. The NFL record is 25. But if he didn't throw that Hail Mary at the end of the half, he could have been close to that NFL record set by Nick Foles back in 2019. So that was pretty cool. But I think Justin Fields does have a really good bounce back game, or not bounce back game. He compounds on what he did against the Denver Broncos. He has more confidence. This is a player who needed confidence. And when he does have confidence, he is an absolute threat at the position. And we talked about the vulnerability of the Washington defense, despite having a very good front four. Justin Fields is going to get sacked. It's going to happen. But as long as you can, extend some drives and make the sacks hurt less in certain situations, I think they'll have a pretty good day. So with that being said, I'll throw it over to your prediction, which will probably be something around 130 yards, 1 touchdown, 47.
How many rushing yards would you like to allocate to Justin Fields this week?
I'll allocate 57 and a half.
Well,
57.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay. I honestly am not sure how to feel, just because, this isn't even a Justin Fields thing. It's more of are the coaches going to be cowards thing? Is Luke Getsy going to continue to turtle and be a coward and roll things back, or is he going to play call like he did in the first half? And I just don't know. I do somewhat believe that the Bears are trying to lose games, and if that is the case, then they're not going to let Justin Fields go nuts. All that being said, I will say that Justin Fields goes 20 for 27. I do think they still let him throw the ball. I think he has a little bit better day. I'm going to say 263 passing yards. Yeah, that makes sense, right? I'm gonna say that he has 72 rushing yards. I still think there was an interception. Turnovers continue to be a problem for him. I will say that I think he throws one and rushes one.
So 2 touchdowns, 263 passing yards. Okay.
I
He
think
hasn't had a rushing touchdown this season.
I think it's not as good as last week, but that's a hard bar to clear. Which leads us into our score predictions. Kevin, how do you have the Bears winning?
I don't have the Bears winning this game. I have them covering the spread. I think it's a close game. The spread's at 6.5. I think it's going to be a 3-point game. I think it's going to be really tight. I think the Bears are still going to play some better football. But I don't know. I think it really comes down to this for me. I don't think Matt Eberflus is going to walk in and out coach Ron Rivera. I mean, that's just all it is. I think the Bears have the better quarterback. I think the Bears have, they have a better quarterback, right? They have the better quarterback. I can't say they have the better skill positions. I can't say they have the better defense or anything like that, obviously. I think they have the better quarterback, but they don't have the better coach. And in most instances on a short week, having the better coach wins you the game. Ron Rivera is still a good coach, whether you like it or not. And I just think what I really think is happening in that locker room is just what's happened with Chase Claypool. I think Bears players are out. I'm at Eberflus, and maybe you see a situation where Bears players fight for themselves, but that's just not always how it works. Like if you're not buying into what the coach is preaching, it's hard to win football games. So I'm going to agree with Jake. I think the Bears are going to lose 26-23, and still a more relatively exciting game than what you would have expected based off of last year's exact matchup between the Commanders and the Bears. And I'm going to agree with Jake, man. I'm going to agree with Jake. I'm going to say if the Bears win, if they do end up winning this game, Matt Eberflus will not get fired because it's just hard to justify firing somebody after a win. It just can't happen. But if they lose, which I am predicting them to do, I think Matt Eberflus does get fired on Friday morning. I don't think it's going to take much time at all. This has been dysfunctional. There's precedent for coaches getting fired this early before. I think he gets fired, as Jake predicted as well. I'm not sure about Luke Getsy, but I think you're going to see a changing of the coaching staff at the end of this game. And that's all I got to say about it.
Yeah, I think good points all around. I think that what it comes down to for me is how much better do you think Washington is than Denver? I think Washington is significantly better than Denver. I think that, in fact, they're 10 points better than Denver. I have the Bears losing this game 30-17. I think it's going to be a little bit better day than expected with this pass rush, but I still think that the Bears struggle offensively. I think Justin Fields does okay, but I still think the defense gets absolutely destroyed. I think you give up 30 again, and with Matt Eberflus calling the plays for the defense, I think it's another nail in the coffin as to why they fire him. And I think that a double-digit loss, because Kevin, I don't hate your process of where you got with your score, but I think if it's a close game, there's a chance they don't fire him. I think if it's only a loss by 3 by field goal, I think there's a chance that this organization would say, oh, well, it got a little bit better. And so I think they would keep him. I think you need a double-digit loss. I think the defense has to be horrendous, again, as he's the one calling the plays, to get him fired. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Sam Howell has a great day going against you. I think that Ron Rivera gets his revenge spot against you and gets a win against his former team. And I think you leave Matt Eberflus in Washington, hopefully. Maybe you let him back on the plane as a last little gratuity, but I think he gets fired. If this is what's going to happen, I think that Matt Eberflus is going to be fired on Friday as well.
It's going to be tough for me because I'm going out of town this week. I'm going to Philadelphia to visit my sister. And if he gets fired, this would actually be horrible for me, because if he got fired, it'd be a really busy work day for me, and I am not on the clock on Friday. So I'm hoping the Bears win. He doesn't get fired.
Well, we'll see what happens. We will be back after that, I guess, when Kevin gets back from his trip, which I didn't know about. Thanks for keeping me in the loop, friend. No.
Monday, I'll be back Monday morning.
But Monday, we will do our regular schedule. We'll be back then to break it down. I hate to say this, feels icky to say, but hopefully we're covering a firing. Hopefully we're covering a new head coach on Monday when Kevin gets back. But until then, to all the listeners, to all the viewers, you guys continue to be the best. Appreciate you guys in the comments, jumping in, mixing it up with us. We know it's not the most fun topic of conversation all the time, but hopefully we gave you something to talk about, something to think about, and go on with your day, and maybe something to talk about with your friends outside of this podcast. So appreciate you guys. You are the best. We will be back on Monday to discuss whatever this is going to be that we see on Thursday. So one more time, no episode tomorrow on Wednesday for us. This has been the preview episode. We will be back on Monday to recap everything that we've seen in the last 5 days. Until then, Appreciate you all. For myself, for Kevin, this has been Bears Nation Podcast. And as always, bear down.
Bear down.